Today we're gonna have a mix that goes from this to this. Welcome back to the final episode of the Mixing Metal series for beginners. In this final episode, we'll be going over the master bus and everything in that entails. I use a top-down mixing approach, so I put these plugins on pretty early, and it's everything that we've already went over, which is going to be saturation, compression, limiting, and EQ. That's all you need on the master bus. Is just a certain way that I like to do it, and I'm going to show you how to do it here. So without further ado, let's get into the DAW. Now here we are in the DAW. So if I bring up my master bus, you can see I have a couple different saturations on here, an exciter, we have our EQ, and then some limiting. You don't want to go too overboard. This is a bunch of little steps that are going to bring us to our final result. So I have multiple limiters on here. I have multiple forms of saturation on here. Just one EQ, but it is in a multi-band mode, and that's just going to make sure nothing gets out of hand. You just heard what it sounds like before and after. So what I'll do is turn all of these off except our limiters, so we don't lose too much volume. If I play this section, it's not bad because we did so much other work. Throughout this song. So we have all this already on here that's given us a good mix, and that's what you want before you get to the master. Now, if I turn this all back on, all our saturation, our compression, our EQ, same section. Alright, so you can hear the difference there. Now what I'm going to do is turn these all off. We'll go over them one by one, and I'll explain what each one is doing. So this first one here is our Prebox. This has multiple forms of saturation on it, 11 different models going from a vacuum 76 to a hump tone. I like to add a little bit of tape color as the first insert on my master. So we'll turn that on, and you won't hear much of a difference, but it is coloring the sound. That's on, and that's off. Not a big difference, but once we start stacking these, you'll start to hear the difference. Next on the list is our bus compressor. This is the Buster SE Analog Obsession. All these plugins are free. They're all in the description down below with links to all these. So what we're aiming for here is our loudest part. We want it somewhere around 2 to 3. You can see we're right in there. We're right in our 2 to 3 range. And I have my attack on 10 milliseconds, the release on auto, and my ratio at 2 to 1. You don't want to do too much compression here on the master. We've done a ton of compression throughout this mix. We're just trying to glue all of our pieces together, and that's what this bad boy is doing. Moving on, we have this Ferric TDS 2. It's another form of saturation and another little bit of dynamic control. That's off. That's on. We just got our VU meter. Might even turn that back a little bit. And we got a little bit of dynamic control. It's between 1 and 2 there. We bypass it. Now, to an untrained ear, you probably can't hear the nuances of what this is doing, but we're building color, we're building excitement in the mix, and that's what we want to do on the master. Next thing up, we have Heatwave. This is a newer one. This is from Steven Slate. This is Heatwave, This is just a general excitement. We could go super high and really destroy the mix, but we're just looking for subtlety here. That's on 0. You hear how that starts to bring out some life. But if we go too high, we want to go to where we hear it, and then we want to back off. Probably around 17, 18 here. You see how much that's doing. It's really bringing those guitars forward. It's bringing the vocals forward. It's bringing all the mids forward. And we still keep our nice low end. This is a built-in exciter in Reaper from JS. So we put the frequency on 2000, a harmonic percentage at 2, and then we mix it back in at negative 4.2. And this is just adding more excitement. Here it's a little dull right now. And that brings those guitars a little more forward. That's on. Now we have a nice exciting mix, and all we did was we stacked 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of saturation on here, but all in little tiny amounts. And then of course we have our compressor in here to glue everything together. We have our TDR Nova. I just split the bands all the way across here, and they're all doing a little bit of work. You'll be able to see here. Controlling our highs, controlling our high mids, controlling our lows. And the main goal of this guy right here is to make sure none of our frequency ranges get too out of hand. We don't want to flatline completely, but when things pass the threshold, these will jump into gear, and we adjust our thresholds down here on each band. Separate threshold, put these into taste. And that just keeps everything nice and even and pleasing to the ear. And then we go into this Event Horizon limiter. And this is just to add some volume. That's without it. That's with it. And then our final is this free unlimited stereo surround mastering limiter. And we're not going to do a bunch on the threshold. If you got to slide this threshold all the way down, by the time you get to this one, then you have to go back over and figure out what you did wrong up here. We should be at competitive volume by the time we get here, and then this just gives us our nice readings and our luffs. So I set this so it's minus 0.1 because you want that for most streaming services. I don't mess with any of this. We've already did everything we needed to do sonically. All this is giving us our final volume, and I master anywhere between -10 and -6. You can see right here we're at -6.5. If we wanted it a little, if we wanted it not as loud, we could just turn this threshold up. -7 right there. And that's it for our master bus. So that was it. That was a 4-part series for mastering metal for beginners. These are just very basic tips to get you started and get your mix sounding professional, and understand each integral part, which is always going to be EQ, compression, saturation. Those are your 3 mains for any style of music. But understanding those and understanding how to implement those is the key to any great mix. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you on the next one.